You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to jump into the digital shelf once again. Tons of stuff that's going on out there. Been having a lot of conversations, brands trying to understand it. And I actually was invited to be on the MetricsCart, their podcast. And so I asked as a return favor, like, hey, there's somebody on your team that would jump on mine and kind of walk through current state of the digital shelf as a whole. And by that, I mean, and we can get into this a little bit, the holistic digital shelf going beyond the text and the images, but what does it look like to look at every one of these pages across all the retailers holistically, from pricing to reviews? And anyways, Rohan, I'm going to kick it over to you. You want to jump in and, a little background yourself, the company, what you guys do, that'd be great. And then we'll kind of jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Sound good. Thank you, Aaron. Hello, my name is Rohan. I am part of the product team at MetricsCart. And what we basically do in simple terms is we help brands and agencies equally improve their performance on the digital shelf, as simple as that. And that ranges from pricing to, your content and your reviews, of all of those. So yes, I'm part of the product team. I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to have a conversation with Aaron. Aaron talks to a lot of brands, every week. So I'm very excited to hear his thoughts from a industry and brand perspective.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it, because the interesting part when we were kind of prepping for this conversation around what do we talk about as a whole, what is important, and we're hashing back and forth. What came up was the conversations I'm having, they'll be kind of spur of the moment. You'll have, Amazon's doing the 75 character limit. And so people will go in and then they're updating it, that piece of the digital shelf, and they're going to try to monitor that to see if anything happens. Or there's new updates to images or the image carousel or video, and they'll go in and do it. Or there's new restrictions on how many numbers of reviews can be shown or how they could be scraped. It's great. It just gets to the point where it's overwhelming. And this idea of the digital shelf, early on, it was, what does your image look like and what does your text look like? And is it able to convert? And now when we're talking, it's like so much more complicated. How do you guys, when you say digital shelf, what are you thinking about on digital shelf? And then my guess is this got to be multiple retailers, everything, because everything is everywhere now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it is kind of chaotic out there. So the way we sort of look at it is, you have to look at it from all directions, all metrics. So whether it's your content, that has to be optimized. Whether you're selling a product, so let's say you're doing ad spends on a product that's got. So okay, for example, we're talking about a fiber drink product, and you're running ads on it, and let's say one of the reviews says that it causes bloating, and you're basically running ads on a product that's got a negative review. That shoots your customer acquisition cost through the roof. So all of your ad spend is going down the drain. So a lot of the things that you have to look at is, am I, spending ad money on a product? If I'm running ads for a week, has it been out of stock for maybe a day, for maybe 2 days? Or what is the PDP health score? Like, what is my content health score? What is my share of search? So if I'm searching for my particular category, are my products appearing in the top 10? Do I have enough ratings? Do I have a good enough volume of reviews? Those are the kind of things that we sort of, ask brands, are there leakages from those aspects of it? Are you looking at all of the metrics holistically? And yeah, so that's the way that we think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. So let's dig into it a little bit, because I don't think a lot of people, I think the super experienced people are, but to take a step back and say, at the end of the day, I want conversion. And we all know that these retailers are a pay-to-play game at this point in time. You know it. And so there is the ad spend piece broken in. So as you're driving traffic and you're doing that, then you're right. Is there inventory there? Is there not inventory there? Something you need to be literally real time aware of. Product price. Is it dropped? Am I actually making any money? Is there any margin on that? And when I dump in the ad spend, does it take the margin to zero? Does it take it negative? Are there negative reviews? Am I driving to something where all of a sudden, customer acquisition costs, like you say, go through the roof, and I've got to spend 3 times as much? But then at that point in time, is it even worth? This all goes back to my mind. It completely ties in with the fact that people at this point in time are focused on profitability. I see this across the landscape. Rationalization of SKUs, rationalization of products, more emphasis on price, retail prices. And I think I've seen a lot of it with people going from 1P to 3P on Amazon just to get it under control.
Yep.
Awesome. I mean, you guys see the same thing?
Yes, absolutely. And as part of it, so we sort of see brands, large brands that sell on 30 plus retailers, and they sort of they come in and they tell us that they want to monitor prices because, of course, there are unauthorized sellers, their margins are eroding. They want to monitor their prices across these 30 plus retailers. And we sort of tell them that, please focus on the ones that bring you about 80% of your profits. Like focus on those 4 to 5 retailers which bring about 80% of your profits. But we're not saying that we need to ignore the 20%. We're saying that you need to completely automate that piece of it. So leave the automating, leave that part of it to a tech stack partner who's going to completely automate the process, so that these unauthorized sellers know that there's a monitoring guard, there's a shield, there's a live shield, so that the compliance rates will eventually, it'll increase. So in that way, you can protect your, margins. You can make sure that Amazon is not, trying to price match with these unauthorized sellers and eventually suppressing your buy box. So we sort of say, automate the entire process, focus your human resources on the 80%, on the retailers that bring about 80% of your revenue. And again, like we were talking about the ad spend part of it, the profitability part of it. That is what I was trying to say. So you have to look at it from different aspects. Like you have to sort of see, is there ad leakage? Is there money leakage from any aspect, like pricing, your share of search, your views, all of those things. So yeah.
On the review side, Amazon's made some changes, at least for how the LLMs can scrape them as a whole, but internally, like how often do you see people actually monitoring the reviews and then harvesting data or making corrections to either the shelf or, in the end of the day, ad spend?
That's a good question. And so I think I'm sort of biased towards reviews because that's sort of the area where we can, we can play around with it a lot. We can do a lot of things with it. So I'm kind of biased to it. But yeah, we don't see a lot of brands, extracting the potential out of reviews. I mean, we do have a lot of brands who work with reviews, but majority of the brands we talk to say that they don't have a solution in place where they can sort of look at the reviews and where that is informing product development. So I think people are sort of sleeping on it. They're not extracting its potential, and I think there's a huge potential there because things like product development, things like sales and marketing, like you can get your marketing copy from your reviews. You can get sales data. You can get your supply chain related information, product related information, a lot of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because I agree how a Rufus or now Alexa for shopping, I'll probably say a Rufus for another year or so, Alexa for shopping or any of the LLMs go, people search inherently differently. And so when they're searching differently, they're asking usually for answers to a question or they're giving a lot more detail. And if you can harvest that through the reviews, ratings, reviews, primarily, I guess, not the ratings, but the reviews, if you can harvest what people are saying and talking about, I'm going to get into competitor stack as well, but yeah, that's what people are saying real time in natural language.
Yeah.
And we need to be thinking about that. And right now, people are struggling with it. They're trying to figure out okay, if there's this huge chunk coming from Alexa shopping for Alexa or Alexa for shopping, if there's a huge volume that's going that way, we'll say it's 60%. Well, there's still 40% that's using the natural search bar like they always have been. And so
Yeah.
brands are in this really interesting time right now is they just want some guidance. And they know it's probably going to be different 3 to 4 months from now, maybe 6 months if they get lucky. But right now, just give me some guidance as a whole. In one of the best ways, because it is actually people free typing in there, and a lot of it is how they're going to be doing their search in Alexa for shopping or chat or Claude or Perplexity, wherever it's at. Harvesting that, it's the holistic side of things that I think my mind keeps going back to is so many people are looking at, well, it's sometimes even in different departments, the ratings and reviews over here, and maybe it's marketing, maybe it's the product team. You have the pricing, which is obviously there's the sales team monitoring, but there's also the actual pricing, internal compliance. They're looking at it. They want to flag anything that's below map. You have the marketing team or the creative team that's doing all the content, and and so it's almost disparate.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great conversation for right now because it can't be disparate. It just can't be at this point in time. You know, we were talking a little bit at the beginning about whether or not this would be an omni-channel conversation. And a lot of that was around the fact that when we're talking about all these different retailers and everything, they the touch points are over 30 now before somebody buys something. So everything has to be cohesive and coherent and on brand everywhere with the same story. Now, a different format, right? Sure. Different search term, sure. Whatever on Walmart versus Amazon. I get it. I totally get it. But holistically, everything has to align. And that includes pricing. Includes imagery. That includes text in a lot of cases. Um, yeah, it's just crazy. It's just I don't know how people do it. Honestly, I literally I don't know at this point in time because there keeps being reductions in forces across the digital landscape, and I say digital teams as a whole, and they're just charged with doing more. They're charged with doing more, and it's getting more and more complicated by the day. Um, what do you, any new things that you guys are seeing? Like I know I just kind of rambled for a bit there. It was just like real time free thought, but. Um, things
Uh,
you're seeing.
that makes absolute sense. So at the moment, I completely agree with you that it has to be from a holistic point of view. There has to be a sort of like a digital shelf team that sort of monitors everything together. But at the moment, 80% or even 90% of the customers that we see, they are always focused on one aspect of it. Some might be from the marketing department or the consumer insights department who's looking at reviews. The other some of the other brands are from the pricing department, and they're strictly monitoring map. And when we sort of open the conversation on are you interested in review monitoring, do you do that currently, they're not the right ones to talk to at that moment. So it is very, like you said, it is very disparate, and I think there's that has to change. I think in the future, when things are going to happen, like you said, there are 30 plus touch points, and maybe in the future we'll have like one checkout channel. You just enter something into an LLM, and the LLM does the entire buying, the buying journey for you. I think at that point it's going to be very important to do all of these things together.
Yeah, I think I do. I think that's where I do think that's where it's going in all reality, which poses all these other questions to Amazon or the other retailers. Like if you're using chat or a shopping agent via chat that they launch, I don't know what it would be, tied to your chat experience, but it's a separate one just for shopping. Do you think they're going to route them to Amazon? Like, or do you think they're going to route them to Google? You know what I mean? Like it's, and then Google's got its
Yeah.
own, and maybe Google for shopping finally works. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Google shopping actually works. Um, I can see it going that route. It'll be very interesting then. How does that change then the digital shelf if it's an agent that's doing the shopping rather than a person? Right?
Yeah.
That is a lot of conversation. We do a lot of, we do 80 dinners or so, 80 plus dinners a year. We were doing a whole slug of them around agentic shopping. And we just dialed it back because nobody's there yet. Right. We'll get to the end of a dinner and people are like, that is awesome, but I can only use Copilot. Right. Like that's, we're not at a point where the internal teams can build at scale, let alone or if you go buy. So number one, internal team builds it, but then they have to plug into all the different tech stacks internally and the ERP and the CRM, and CIOs are already kind of hesitant, let alone going and trying to buy and plug something into your network. They're totally freaking out. So there's like a kind of a lockdown around Copilot, and then you can get individual Claude licenses in Copilot that run off of your cloud infrastructure and everything, which I get. It dials back some of the creativity, but we're not quite there yet, but I think we'll get there. I don't see why we wouldn't. I mean, it's fundamentally changed how I search and how I shop. It does. And I didn't think that would happen as fast as it did. And that just means even if I'm like, I would never use an agent, I would use an agent. I say I wouldn't right now, but I can see in 5 years' time if it's good enough, right?
Yep.
I would use an agent. Yeah. Would you use an agent to do your shopping?
I would. I'm a very high research shopper, even for the smallest of things. So you wouldn't believe. Like I think most of the purchases that I do, that I've done in recent times, have been through an agent. And I think it's going to be very exciting when we, like you said, if Google Shopping actually works, that might be something to look at. Like it's got all of my data, it's got my address data, it's got my credit card information. If it can pull all of that, like how Google was teasing the universal card feature at their I/O conference, with one click, it's buying stuff for you. I know it's still a long way to go, but then if it actually works, that might be very interesting. And as a tech stack company, I think it's going to be a challenge as well, something to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the 75 character limit on Amazon. There's two things going on there. One is makes the mobile shopping experience better. The other one is for this Alexa for shopping. I mean, right now, if you go through that experience with an actual Alexa, right, it'll ask you if you'd like to add something to cart. I shut this off because it got annoying, because when it would say, like, if I'm looking for a new pair of sneakers, right, or I'm looking for a new coffee maker or whatever, I've used this example because I changed the cabin air filter on the car. And right now, that experience, if I literally go to Amazon right now and I go, and it knows, right? Yes, I'll just do this right now. I'll just do cabin air filter. And we'll see what one of these titles is. The title. And this is what Alexa comes on. Hey, would you like me to add Paroma 1 cabin air filter activated carbon 4 CP134 CF10134 Honda Acura CRV Civic Accord Odyssey Pilot Passport easy install order removal high capacity multi-layer. Would you like me to add that to cart? No. I stopped listening 15 seconds ago. I actually will just tell it to stop. When this goes to 75 characters and when it pops up, and they can do the testing, because what's really interesting is if you don't touch it, Amazon will go in and do it. They will adjust it automatically for you. It's an interesting point if they can real time give me, knowing that my car is in there, they know I have a Honda Odyssey, that if it just said, would you like me to add the Paroma 1 cabin air filter for Honda Odyssey to your cart? I would say yes. If that was the experience today, I would say yes.
Yeah.
But that's not what it says today. So I think we have to get there before this agentic shopping. What are new things that you see like popping up? What are you guys most interested in over there? Are there key things with brands that you think are doing really cool things? Are there the same pain points you see over and over again?
So I like to go back to, when we talk about reviews, I just wanted to highlight one thing. So just a quick example from my side. So we were doing analysis for a brand, and this particular brand is a baby stroller brand. And we were sort of analyzing the reviews, and we sort of saw a signal popping up, which is basically that the I think it was a car seat or a baby stroller, one of these things, and it was that there was a table attached to it, and that the edge was a bit sharp, and it had a tendency to sort of tip over. It wasn't very stable, and these were one of the early complaints that we started seeing. Fast forward a few months later, there was a huge incident where I think a baby's finger sort of got it got cut off, something like that, and that sort of turned into a major lawsuit. So it is things that it's very interesting to see how we can pick out early signals, very early on, when you have things like, if the edge is sharp, and especially for the juvenile industry, that's a very, very, important important insight that you can later you can use, and you can inform your product development. So we do see things like this popping up. We do see brands adjusting, doing regular analysis on this, and adjusting their product strategies accordingly. We do see a lot of brands doing market research. If, let's say, they want to launch a new product, they can look at all of the other products in the industry, try to gauge where the market gap is, and sort of slot their product in right there. So there's a lot of things, going on in that front, in the review front. Uh, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
Oh,
I think that was analysis that we did recently. I thought it was very
how
interesting.
many people are doing that today? If you were to say,
Mhm.
maybe it's holistic, you think it's 10%, 20%. How many people are actively harvesting reviews today when you engage with them? Maybe you don't know the whole market, but you engage
Yeah,
with the brand. How many people today are doing it and doing it well?
I would agree. Yeah, I think it's 10%, or maybe even 10 to 15%. I'm guessing. I think something like that. Very less, very less. That's the thing.
Is it why not? There's tools out there. Right? Is it cost? Like
Hmm.
people like what is why not? I guess would be the thing.
Yeah,
People are tracking map all over the place now, right?
yeah, yeah.
People have tools that are monitoring every time Amazon updates their titles, and it lets them know, hey, there's a title update. So we've got pricing, we've got title. Why aren't they monitoring the reviews? I mean, you named one specific thing, right? We can flag, hey, this could be a potential issue. It might be a lawsuit if it gets crazy. But a lot of it is like, hey, people say the cap is hard to open. Go back and make
Mhm.
it an easy open cap and put easy open closure on the detail page.
Mhm.
Why aren't people doing it?
So what I'm seeing is that, everyone agrees that this is super important. This is super useful. But I think it's just a matter of timing. It's just a matter of timing of, where the company is. They're trying to grow the company. At that point in time, they don't have the time to sort of stop and sort of improve the other aspects of it. I think most of the times when we talk to brands, they're in the growth stage. They're trying to grow as much as possible, sell on as many retailer channels as possible. And maybe that is where, that is the only trend that we're seeing that is, falling through the cracks. Otherwise, I think, it's super useful. It's super important. From a cost point of view, I don't think that's the issue. So yeah,
Maybe
maybe it's,
then. Oh, I would agree. Like it's not the tools aren't that expensive.
yeah.
Maybe it's just they don't want to know. At the end of the day, right? They just don't want to know. They've made their products. They love their products. They're going to say, "Hey, not everybody likes it, and so I just would rather ignore it and pretend it's not there," which you can do with reviews. You can't necessarily do with ratings, right? You can't necessarily do it because it's directly impacting conversion and everything else. But from the review side, I just don't want to know, right? I'd rather have my head down and just pretend everything is, ignorance is bliss at the end of the day. Um,
Yeah, maybe,
I
yeah.
don't know if you can do that any longer. I don't. The competitive landscape, you could do it for a long time when, there is not as many digitally savvy brands and people out there, digitally native brands that are growing. There are so many now. You can't afford to do that. I don't see how you can to ignore it. The level of digital expertise out there right now is through the
Yeah,
roof, and you have to have every tool in the toolbox to stay on top of it at this point in time. It's crazy
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
you can't throw people at it. It's you can't. We got the profitability right now. It's customer acquisition costs are through the roof, and yeah, crazy.
I think when we talk about omni-channel shoppers, the reason that they're using 30 plus touch points is to reach the truth. They've sort of got like a trust fatigue situation. They're trying to reach the truth, and I think one of the crucial pieces of that would be reviews. So even if it's one bad review, that's going to be very difficult for a brand. So I think it's super important. I'm also I also keep wondering why a lot of more brands don't use this. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that is interesting, right? Because these LLMs are scraping those, right?
Yeah.
They are looking for that. It's why a lot of them actually end up on Reddit. At the end of the day, if the question that's being asked is not answered on retailer.com or brand.com, it's sending up it's going into the forums on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I trust all of those forums, but there's a lot more conversations there and a lot more questions. So these LLMs end up there. If you can harvest today the questions that are being asked and the concerns that they have around your product, maybe it's your competitor's product. That's what I was thinking earlier. Like drop this in onto your competitor's product and see what the issues are. Build that in. So when these LLMs go to look for an answer, they find it before they get to Reddit, right? They will put more weight. I do believe they put more weight on retailer.com and brand.com than they do on Reddit. But if brand and retailer.com score 0, then they have to completely rely on Reddit as a whole when they're looking for an answer. Yeah. Wow.
I do agree. Yeah. And, not just Reddit, now you have access to YouTube videos and transcripts, and LLMs can sort of pull, data from there as well. So if you're searching for some specific thing like durable, priced under $60, something like that, it might, pull in a review from a video, like it might pull some. So yeah, it's like you said, if you don't start adding that to the brand page or on xretailer.com, it's going to eventually pull it from Reddit or YouTube or any other source that's out there.
Yeah, you also said that you mentioned this thing that they're searching for, truth, right? They're searching for the truth around what has just been asked. And I think right now with the 30 people, right now, that's why there's 30 plus touch points. They keep checking all over the place to try to find it. And there's all these different touch points. It is exasperating at some point in time. And getting back to our agent talk, if people think they can trust the agent to go do those 30 steps for them, then we're going to get to a point where they just say, yes, go buy it. And then we'll be at the agentic shopping. People aren't quite there yet. But the LLMs aren't quite there yet. I don't trust everything. I think that whole adage, like, I read it on the internet, it must be true. And then the same person will just use chat, who is just consolidating the internet to give you an answer. And like, they totally believe it. What's going on here? Are you serious? So do double check the LLMs, everybody. As we kind of like get to the end here, like key takeaways. I have some things going through my mind. I would love, we get to the wrap up, but I'd love to hear like your thoughts in this space.
Yeah. So I would say, if you have 30 plus touch points and you sort of have the question on how do we manage that, I would say ruthlessly prioritize, focus on the ones that bring about 80% of your revenue. Focus on those 4 to 5 retailers. Leave the rest of it, completely automate it, and leave that to a tech stack and just forget about it. You dedicate all of your human resources to the 80% revenue driving retailers. That's one piece of it. Second piece of it, I think, when we talk about profitability, ad leakage, all those sorts of things, you have to sort of look at it from a holistic point of view. When you're thinking of the digital shelf, there's too many metrics to it. It's not just pricing. It's not like pricing is a different part of the story. It's not like reviews is a different part of the story. It all comes together in order to have in order to have the perfect product selling on your digital shelf. You need to have your pricing sorted out, your content health, your reviews, your ratings, your share of search, or in the future, share of recommendation, when these AI chatbots take over. That's another piece of it. The other thing that I just want to put out there is that please don't sleep on reviews. There's a lot of potential out there, and I think it's going to be super important in the future as well when these AI chatbots sort of take over the entire buying journey. I think it's going to be super important and super useful for brands to leverage and extract insights from reviews. Yeah, I think that is mostly it from my side, Aaron.
No, I just hit on what I was going to say, which is we have to think about the digital shelf now holistically more than just the images and the text. It is everything that's associated with it. I do believe that these, especially the ratings and reviews, these LLMs, where they're going, it is where the future's going. But also the fact that you have to do it across all these different touch points at this point in time. And that's, I mean, getting connected with you guys is awesome. I would say anybody listening, you should check out MetricsCart, the holistic solution to be able to look at everything across the board and not have 15 different tech partners to have to do it with. And then the automation on the back end to handle the ones that you should be everywhere. That doesn't mean you should be spending your time or your team's time everywhere. And if you can automate that, I know that's a big thing that's happening right now is tech stack rationalization, consolidation. That's happening both on the agency side as well on the brand side. It just is. And it all gets back to profitability at the end of the day. That's what it's all getting back to. So, Rohan, thanks so much for your time today. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being supporters of the network. Thanks for the invite to your podcast. And we should do another one of these at some point in time. But this has been awesome. It's been fun. So thanks, my friend. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.